Good evening, everyone, and welcome to the Franklin Board of Education meeting for Wednesday, July 9th, 2025. The meeting has been properly posted. Could we have a roll call, please?
Dr. Khan? Mrs. Wachowski?
Here.
Mrs. Yank?
Here.
Mrs. Larson? Here. Mr. Sprague?
Here.
I'm here, and Mrs. Sapersky is excused.
Thank you. Can we stand for the pledge, please? I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. All right, thank you. We will move on to community comment. And Maksud, please.
I want to take this opportunity to say, first of all, thank you for Senator Vanguard and Representative Whitkey for accepting the request to attend our school board meeting. So we as a school board welcome you and appreciate you being here, taking your time from your busy schedules. So thank you so much for coming.
Thanks. And guys, please feel free to come up, sit at the microphone. We won't hold you to a 3-minute limit. That doesn't mean you have to speak for half an hour. Representative Bob Whitkey and Senator Van Wangard have joined us today, so we appreciate you coming. If you guys have something you'd like to say, or if you'd like to take questions, I know Senator Wangard has a list. Please.
That's pretty good, you know. Well, first of all, thank you for the opportunity. Okay, we're good. Thank you for the opportunity for being able to meet some of you again. We had a fun time at the parade this past week, and I met a few of you there, and what a great parade. I think this was one of the best parades that I've been involved in with all the parades I've done in my time. There's a couple of them that are really good. This is at the top of that list. I think Bob and I had a pretty good time meeting people, so thank you for that. And it was interesting getting to know it a little bit better because you got redirected, to get here with all of the construction going on. It was opened your eyes. I went through communities I didn't know. Now I know where they're at. But anyway, thank you again. This is new district for both Bob and I with the redistricting. Prior to being redistricted, I actually represented Racine and Kenosha, the county portions, and now I've bought 25% Racine, and the rest is all new. Greenfield, Greendale, Franklin, Milwaukee, Gales Corners. So we have a pretty good area of coverage. I did have a couple things that I kind of had my staff look at to see how the budget impacted Franklin and the school district specifically. Just to give you an idea, I don't know if Bob wants to chat first, or if I was just going to just kind of go through a couple of these things so you know. Oh, we're good. It's really good to have him here too, because he was a school board chair in the scene for 2 years on the school board, so he has that inside look for that. I actually worked for the school system for almost 30 years doing security in the high schools, because I was a police officer in the scene for nearly 30 years till I ended my career with a severe crash on a fleeing felon. But that put my feet on the path for getting involved in politics and getting involved in being a positive influence in other areas. So I just wanted to say, you guys are doing a great job. You're managing your declining enrollment and budget. You consolidated schools, I understand, to 1 middle school, 2 K-5 elementary schools. Is that accurate? I mean, you're on that road of being proactive.
I think you're thinking of a different district. We haven't consolidated any schools, and we have 5 K-5 elementary schools.
You have 5
Yep.
K-5 elementary?
Yep.
I'll make that correction. I know that it's a little bit challenging when you're looking at the
That's fine.
budgeting process, but no, I'll make sure that they can.
We did align grades, though. We aligned some grades.
1 middle school is correct, yeah.
So we aligned grades. We went to 5, 8, or 6, 8. We previously had 7.
So you did consolidate?
There was some up
with
to middle school.
and high school?
No.
The middle
Moved some
school got
grade
big.
levels, but didn't close any schools.
Okay. Well, you're making the adjustment because that helps with staffing. gives you a little bit better, process for getting these kids a decent education. Impact on the state budget on Franklin School District. I had the Fiscal Bureau run a few numbers just to kind of get an idea of how that would impact Franklin. Overall spending authority for the next 2 years is almost $4 million. $3,981,864 is the total. So in 2025-26, it's $2,328,94. That's an increase. And 26-27 will be an additional $1,661,060 on top of that 2.3. So that makes $4 million over the biennium. Revenue limit authority based on an enrollment of 4,354. I think that's your current enrollment, pretty close to that. But pull that for the state numbers. It gives you an additional $1.4 million in revenue limit authority in each one of those years. So that allows for about $2.83 million over the next 2 years. Special education issues based on a current reimbursement of roughly $2.45 million. 42% in the first year, so we've increased it the first year over what it had been, and in the second year it's 45% in the second year, so that should help with, according to my numbers here, in that first year it's $899,174 additional, and in 25-26 it's $1.14 million. So that should give you a little bit of help. High cost education based on current reimbursement rate. 50% the first year, 90% the second year, so that should help with the high cost special ed. So that has an impact of $6,580 in 25-26 and $15,132 in 26-27. So I mean, those are going to be positives as a result of that. So yeah. So Bob, do you have anything that you want to add to that? If you have questions, we can answer questions for you too.
Why, certainly. Thanks for inviting us. I didn't get into the detail like he did. We were a little higher level. We're still taking a look at how, if you understand how the process works, there's a significant amount of negotiation in the last 2 to 3 weeks. We always target to pass a budget on time or in the week shortly thereafter. One of the reasons is most municipalities rely on our budget to shape some of their own. And so we wouldn't have done anything until September if we hadn't worked with the governor to get something done now. So as always in budgeting, no one ever gets everything they want. But I think we've made some more incremental movement towards solving some problems potentially, probably not as much as people would like. But so if you take a look at, one of the things I'll say is that and I will say this, I've said this since every session I've been in, and I'm in my 4th session. The funding formula here in Wisconsin is broken, and there has been no desire to fix it. And there hasn't been enough pressure from boards of education or school districts to get with people that want to see a change and get something done right. I've had groups in my office that have recommended taking a different look at school aid by student, depending upon where you are in the state. I've seen that. I've had discussions with other superintendents that have talked about the way the formula works. The formula has like a 3-year average. That causes heartburn when you start to budget because as years get replaced, things go up and down. And I still have a piece of paper in my in most of my other documentation that he went through and divided it. And this is a school district that's in good health, that's got a lot of influx from open enrollment. And he showed me that if I lost 200 students in 1 year, that's a $2 million decrease in the amount of state aid that we get. And he went through a series of divisions to show me what that meant when I got down to the classroom and asked me how, if I sat in his chair, how would I manage that? Which was a good point. The issue is that, and especially the special education funding is broken. What I'm concerned with is when I was board president, the highest schools we had were at 15% special ed IEP-related students. I sat with teachers about 3 or 4 weeks ago. They're telling me in their schools, the average now is as high as 25%. So that's why there's this huge disparity. We have to find a way to work with this, but my point is that I can say as much as I want. I'm only 133. If you watch how this plays out in the legislature, what you're going to have is that every person that's elected looks at the result and goes down and says, is my district a winner? Then I'm in. You've got great legislation. If my district is not a winner or stays even, that legislation, I don't think I can vote for it. So I look at the public groups I talk to, school boards I talk to, my colleagues on the other side of the aisle. For going on 7 years now, I've invited them down to define for me what fully funding education is. And I was really surprised when I had teachers, those that are on the front lines, across from me in a conversation, and I said, what does that mean to you? Even they couldn't define it for me. So I explained to them, I look at budgeting from the highest level. 44% of our budget, and which is about, let's say, if I even off the numbers, last year was $100 billion. So $45 billion is going to education in the state, whether it be higher ed, K through 12. Where do I go to target something to help you? If you can't define it for me, I'm at the highest level. Everybody wants local control, so we send the money out. There are some spots I would like to have more accountability, but those are some of the things I think you should start thinking about on a broader basis and get with other districts. Because without any pressure in the right direction from school districts, nothing will ever get done. So that's since you gave me more than 3 minutes, that's one of the first things that we could use some help with. On top of what the senator gave you, there was GPR that was devoted to comprehensive mental health services. I only have the totals, so it'll be $40 million in the first year of the biennium and $10 million in 26-27. So they took about $20 million of what we call one-time funding and added it to what was in the GPR total. The reason that you see it go down to 10 million is because that's what we call a way to continue on the program without hiking it to 40 million and not being able to find a way to fund it. The Act 20, interestingly enough, we finally came to a resolution after the court case for that. There's 37.1 million in GPR in the biennium for grants to reimburse school districts for curriculum choice and professional development. And no, there's nothing that goes back if you've already done some of those things. But what I would recommend is that you take a look at filing a claim for anyone that you can get some professional development in the next 2 school years and get it. And I'll try to find out what the parameters are, because I'm not sure that there's any structure as to who you apply to and why. But I was happy to see that the bulk of the 50 million went towards those 2 things. You can still get professional development for those teachers that haven't had it, for new teachers that you have, and you can get something. So my recommendation is that the money's out there for that purpose. Let's try to file something so it protects what you have. And then I think they funded the The screener, because the early literacy diagnostic assessment aid, they added another 1.5 about million to the 2.1 that was in there. And I've had some meetings on this screener product and in the initial stages with a couple of different people to find out exactly if the DPI has met everything that we put into Act 20 for that. We're not really sure. Let's see, anything else? There's 500,000 for robotics league participation grants. So if you have a robotics team here, doesn't hurt to get money for that. My guess is it's got to come up through the DPI. The other thing that I guess I would say that you might be interested in, we have changed the reimbursement, or we have added close to $1,600 per pupil for 25-26 school year for the open enrollment on the way in. So what was left, so it changes, I think it was roughly around 8,000 a student, and then something was left in the other district. We looked at it and said that leaving it in the other district probably is, none of us really cared for that. And so we took 1,600 off of that amount, and then if you have open enrollment and students in, you'll get another 1,600 a student.
Per student, yeah.
For in 25, 26. I'd have to see how it works from that. But there was some I guess there was some support for that. As I said, some of the stuff. So all this gets put into an act. We spend 6 or 7 hours listening to debates and 25 amendments and a number of other fun things. So now we're sorting out what actually the language that was put in, and there's not a lot, but you have to look at the language for every one of the funding pieces, and there are other reference materials that we have to find out what some of the parameters are. And the only other thing is that I see that we have added, I believe we've added to library aids as well. I got 3 million here, but I thought I saw an estimate a little bit higher. So there is money there. Like I said, I have no problem if you need assistance with finding out where to apply for something or for some assistance. We've done some things to follow up with some districts or whatever. Not everybody's going to be happy, including some of us that would like to see things a little different. But at least we have a budget. The main thing is we have a budget in place. We did work with the governor, and this is what comes out of that. So I'm just going to make one other comment. Last session, the governor line item vetoed a portion of school aids that's basically covered by an increase in levy limit. So right now, of course, it's all our fault that happened. But the 400-year veto, just so that you know, we asked if he would negotiate on that in this budget, and the answer was no. And that's why you don't see normally what would happen if we were building something in school aid, we would negotiate between a levy limit increase and something else, a per pupil state aid, so that it lessens the what I call the burden on the property taxpayer. But because of the 400-year veto and unwillingness to negotiate with it, it's his deal. Nobody's going to like it, and especially those districts that go out for referendum. Because I've heard from a district to the south that went out for a $190 million referendum on the operational side. And so when taxpayers get their property tax bill, they're not going to be happy. And I will tell you, it's the number one call I get in my office. How can we reduce property taxes? So I just wanted to, so you understand a little bit, there's a lot more than what you see in the media. lot more than what you see coming out now. But the budget process is as difficult as what you have to face when you take a look at trying to manage your operations. So, okay, so now I've talked more
Yeah,
than I
and,
should
you
have.
know, just a couple of additional things here is that the funding formula is, I'm sure you guys have looked at it, and I'm sure you all understand it perfectly. I know I've sat with the Legislative Fiscal Bureau on 2 occasions now, at least, now maybe 3, it might be 3 now. And those were a couple hours each time that Bob Lang, he is a wizard when it comes to dealing with numbers and stuff. And as you walk through this formula, it is so unbelievable because you don't have a clue what this is doing over here to affect this over here until you start the process. And you don't always know what those numbers are going to be because they're all moving targets depending on what each district does. And there's all these different factors that all of a sudden come in and impact it. So, I mean, I probably confused you more because I got to tell you, it's really a confusing formula. I mean, Bob's dealt with it on the operational side from Racine when he was down there, but he also, you know, being the audit co-chair and dealing with finance, beyond finance, you know, it's like you learn a little bit more about how that directly impacts, you know, all of our end users, you know, where it's coming down to you being able to make decisions on what your budgets are going to be. One of the things that I do hear a lot, or I've heard quite a bit lately, is the indication that private schools receive 90% reimbursement for special education. That is absolutely not true. Private schools get a flat rate of $15,409 per special education student, with an increase of $325 each year like every other student. So, and there are 11 kids statewide that receive a 90% reimbursement, and these are the high-cost students. So, I mean, there's a lot of information out there that's not exactly accurate that makes it look like it's worse than what it is. But we also have to deal with when we have an income of about 2.2 or 2.3 billion coming in, and Medicaid is about 1.5 billion, if I recall. That's pretty close to what it is. The difference of that is what we have to spend on everything else. That's K-12, that's universities, that's corrections, that's highways. All of those other things have to be done with that. And if we do have to raise some taxes in some areas, well, then we got to do that. So it becomes a real balancing act. But it really is important, and I think over the last several months, at least since I redistricted, I have been able to chat with quite a few of the school districts and quite a few of the leadership in the towns and villages and cities now that I represent. And so we're starting that conversation. That's really important for us as legislators to understand some of the challenges that you have and some of the things that you're trying to address. And sometimes, you know, depending on what impacts are here, I mean, school safety is a huge issue for me. I did school safety, we were probably some of the first, I guess you'd call us as school resource officers way back in 1973 when I first started working at Washington Park High School to protect the teachers' cars in the parking lot because the kids at noon lunch would come out and key them. So they had a couple of us work in the parking lot. Next thing you know, we're into the school and we're addressing issues in the school. And the next thing you know, a couple years later, we're in the school system and we're actually part of the staff working to make it a safer place. So we want to make sure that you have those tools in your school system also. And as grants become available, that we'll keep you cued in on that. Several of you, Dr. Khan has been really proactive in asking questions and looking at some of the security issues we have. So please, you know, don't be afraid to call our offices. That's what we're there for. If we don't have the answer, believe me, our staff will track it down and we'll try to figure out how we can make it a little bit more palatable maybe, or maybe there's other things that are being misinterpreted, or maybe there are some things that are in statute right now that need to be tweaked a little bit to make it easier for you to be able to be compliant or be able to be, I don't know, a better steward of, you know, your funds and your resources. So we're here to help you make that happen. Our intent as legislators is not to create more legislation to make it good here. And then over here, we have this negative unintended consequence that screws everything up for everybody else. So it's good to get involved early. If you guys do have questions, my goodness, call us. And like I said, we may not have the answers, but we'll try to resolve it and get you to the right place so that we can get you that help. So look forward to working with you.
I would echo the same thing, and more on a positive note. So it was, one of the first things I was exposed to in this district was the referendum that you put out. It was well thought out. I found that the community input and so on was really well. You'll find that what you have planned is what's going to be needed 5 to 10 years from now. And so even though I'm not a big proponent of referendums, I would have stood up and said this is something that I would have believed in as well. And so I always use a model because a good friend of mine, Dan Thielen, runs the district to your east. And I've watched how they've used referendums. And I've told people in other districts, you should go over and see some of the stuff they did for a reasonable amount of money. But the plans that you have, you will find that it will benefit your district for years to come. So some other things that we can do for you, so that there are groups that we work with. For example, I work with a manufacturing group. I forget, they've got a federal name, MEP of some sort, and they're divided in half in the state. Half of it's based at Stout University with the chancellor there, and half with one of my friends just in Madison. And I was able to get him hooked up with one of the teachers in your high school. They work with high schools and that to get them involved with apprenticeships at manufacturers and so on. And they're a manufacturing group that works it. I work a lot with Local 139. I've been up to their training center. It's kind of a dream for a big kid. 400 acres, and they are one of the top training institutions for those that run heavy equipment.
Equipment operators, yeah.
And they have a virtual program that they will open up to kids in the school district that gives them the first 3 classes of their apprenticeship, and they can take that virtually. And we can link you to groups like that. I have another group that does technical training. So if you put the goggles on, you can do things like change oil. They've got medical things now where you can be in an operating room and actually, by what you do, surgery and so on. They're always willing to come down and talk to school districts to find out, because sometimes you can't replicate some of that training. But the things that you can do virtually, it gives. They always tell me the story that there was a young student that wanted to be a nurse, but the one thing is her personality was such that she didn't like to talk to people. So kind of a really a detriment to try to get into the nursing. But they put her in a virtual setting in a surgical unit. So you don't have to talk to anybody and you're masked up. And she was like, wow, I could really do this, and this is really cool. So what I'm saying is it can open up opportunities for students that they never knew existed. And I think those are the things that
Public-private partnerships.
those are the things that we would like to help out with, because we see a lot. I'm on the building commission. I know just about every chancellor's name by first name basis. We did enough. There are some really good things going up in the university system. I was up at River Falls where they got a brand new science building. I was on the 5th floor of Eau Claire's new science building. We just funded the completion of the nursing school at UWM. And Oshkosh is going to get a new library setting amongst some other things that we're doing. The engineering building is finally going up on the UW campus. So these are all state-of-the-art facilities, and I've been to UWM, and they have a brand-new state-of-the-art chemistry building that they send 5,000 students a semester, or a year through, because they all take classes there. But if you take a tour through that, these are things that, if you have students that are interested in biology, chemistry, engineering, we would certainly like to see them be able to see the leading edge things that we have invested in. And that will be, someone likes a small school setting, you can go to River Falls. The building is absolutely beautiful. Of course, I always recommend people to go to the campus that I attended in Eau Claire, and their 5-story science building is bigger than the one in River Falls, and it'll have a partnership with the Mayo Clinic there. So these are really exciting opportunities for kids that are in high school now. And we will do everything we can to help you in any way we can, but we'll always take the criticism on the funding part. It's just part of the job, so. I guess will you take any questions?
If there's something that,
Yeah, I think we should maybe ask some high-level questions. I'd like to, I've got a comment first. I appreciate you guys coming today and being available since you've taken over this district. Especially you, Representative Wicke, have come to some of our key communicators, taken a tour of the school for the referendum. But it was great to see you both at the parade. You've been available, both of you have been available when we've asked questions. And there was, it was nice to see the budget get done with some compromise. And certainly I'll say both sides. We're not happy about some things, but that means that it was probably a good deal. I appreciate you working with your district to be part of the solution, because that's what we try to do as well, be part of the solution. At any rate, Mrs. Yank, you have a question.
Just, I've heard that Wisconsin has a lot more school districts than maybe other states do. Does that complicate what you do? And would that ever be something that would come to you changing?
it's good, what are the
421.
421? I was gonna say 321, I know it was something like that.
420.
A lot. I guess it gets a little problematic when you start getting up north, because it's a little sparser, and so that's a little bit more challenging for the districts there. But we could probably consolidate some districts here. Problem is, though, they don't want to consolidate.
Oh.
This is our little thing, just leave us alone, we'll do what we need to do, and I don't know what to tell you. I mean, would you guys want to give up your district and maybe go into the one that's next to you? I mean,
Right.
probably not, because you guys have tailored your district to your community, and, you know, you're driven that way. You know, maybe there's some areas that you can collaborate with, like Bob was talking about, you know, these public-private partnerships with some of our larger businesses that are doing apprenticeships and those things. It's a great way for, even if the young person doesn't decide to become that apprentice for that, they get the exposure to it. It's like, I remember when I went to middle school, or junior high school, is what we called it then, you got home economics and electricity and carpentry and wood and metals. Those are all elective things you could take, and they were all really fun to learn about that. Well, they stopped doing that, you know, years ago, exposing our kids to that, so that these kids come out and they don't know how to change a fluorescent light bulb, you know, or something. And then it's all of a sudden, you know, we're pushing them towards a 4-year degree that a lot of these kids, that's not really what they want. They want to work with their hands, but they don't know it yet. And so this is what has been, you know, one of the big issues that has I think, caused a problem in our state with directing kids into a 4-year school and $30,000-$40,000 in debt, and they're failing because they didn't want to be there to begin with. They come out and get a low-paying job someplace, and then finally get into a tech college, and bam, the light goes on, and they're off and running. You know, I think you guys have adjusted to that. You know, I think most of the districts have, because they see that this is gonna be someplace that we're gonna really have our kids shine, and they're gonna have those opportunities. So I think collaborating with some of these private partners, I know a lot of business people that have large companies, and they're looking for good people, you know, that don't want a job. These people want a career, and they want to look at that individual as a family member in a lot of cases, that you become part of the family of that manufacturing business or whatever it is. And I've seen this happen, and it's more fruitful, productive, and it's a better experience. So you guys are already doing that. I mean, so we'll help you whatever we can to help invest that for you too.
But to answer your question, the answer to that question is yes. Because the issue that you have is that it stretches aid out. So it's like when you stretch yourself too thin, you don't get anything done really well. I can attest to that personally. My guess is that you will see, so now you'll start to see legislation come out after the budget that has been held up because of just the cycle that we're in. My belief is that I've heard rumors that there will be another attempt to find ways to get some districts to consolidate. One of the things that I have found that also is a difference is that I have more resistance to property tax relief by some of my colleagues that are in rural areas than by the people that call me from from my district. And I believe the reason for that is as I take a look at how we do things, the districts in the urban areas are larger, have more expense, so their property tax levies are higher per household. If I get in a rural district, it may not have the impact on their property tax bill that others have. But it's the same thing. When we know that we probably have too much university space in the state, I've always told my colleagues, they say, we've got to close a campus. I said, here's the map, put a pin in the one you want, and then stand in the podium there and tell everyone you're going to close it. Those universities are so embedded in the community and in such a large part of it, it would be hard. It's a hard decision to say we have to close that up. Same thing with a school district. I might go to Algoma High School. Kiwani's right next to them. If they're both like 2,000 students, which high school do you choose then? Because people want to wear black and gold here. We have 3 high schools in Racine, and they all have their, so that's the tough part, is to get communities to recognize, because the more you replicate the expense, the aid doesn't go as far down in the classroom as you'd like. So, but I think somebody might pull the consolidation legislation out of the hopper again. I've heard some rumblings of that.
All right, anybody else? All right, thank you guys very much for coming. We
Thanks for coming.
appreciate
We
it.
appreciate you.
You're welcome. You're welcome to stay as long as you like.
So if you have other questions that, when we get up and we leave, you go, I wish I would have asked that, please send us an email, jot them down, get them to us, and we'll get you the answers. And if we don't know it, we'll find out what it is. And again, if there's something that we can be proactive to help you with, by all means. I mean, Doc's got me on speed dial, so
You want deeper discussions on some of this stuff?
we can do that too.
Please don't hesitate to ask. In this district, I don't have to wait for an invitation. I used to be on the education committee, and I could kind of go where I wanted, but now I have to be respectful of my other colleagues, so I have to get invited, so. But more than glad to work with you in any way we can.
Absolutely.
The only comment which I have is that one of the pride which we take as Franklin Public School Board is that Franklin Public School is a destination district. And we are very proud that in and the greater Milwaukee area, southern district area, this is a destination district with high performance in education, in sports. Not only that, we have also, as you mentioned, fiscally be very responsible. Our credit rating has increased. We paid off our debt, and we had a successful referendum, and we have an amazing board. So we have all the good strengths, and we are looking forward with your cooperation to move forward and make it much more better. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thanks, Dr. Schreiber.
Public comment.
Appreciate it.
I saw the 3 minutes, and when I was in receipt, it cut to 2. Thank you. Thanks.
Thanks. All right, we will move on to item 4, agenda approval. I'm looking for a motion, please.
So moved.
Second.
Motion was made by Mrs. Witkowski, seconded by Dr. Khan. All in favor? Aye. Opposed? Motion carries. Thank you. I'm looking for a motion to approve the consent agenda.
So moved.
Second.
Motion was made by Mrs. Yank, seconded by Mrs. Larson. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Opposed? Motion carries. Thank you. School Board calendar, National Night Out is Monday, August 4th at 5:30. Annual meeting of electors is Wednesday, August 13th at the ECC at 6 o'clock. And followed by a Board of Education meeting at 7 or as soon as the annual meeting ends. Board retreat Wednesday, August 20th, 2025 at 5:30 at the ECC, and Board of Education meeting September 10th at the ECC at 6 o'clock. District Administrator update, Mrs. Bennon, please.
All right. Well, thank you, Representative Wickey and Senator Weingart, for being here this evening. It was nice to see you in attendance, and I know Representative Wickey, we also have a connection on the calendar tomorrow afternoon, so I look forward to that. And thank you for your support of public education. So a couple other updates. It's July, and so it doesn't slow down in the district. Summer learning is off to, I think we're at the end of our 3rd week with about 2 weeks left. It's been a huge success. It's fun to see the students over there and the staff enjoying the time, enjoying the learning, and engage indoors and outdoors during the summer season. We are working on our first back-to-school district newsletter. Usually that goes out in August, so that's our digital one to all of our families. We're going to look to push that out about the 24th of this month, as we hope to be getting ready on the grounds at the high school with CD Smith, putting up fences, and getting ready to set up the site to begin the work. So part of that newsletter, a big part will be, where is that fencing? What are the protocols we have in place for safety? Because as we know, in August, it also is full season for athletics and activities. So between marching band, our athletic teams, transition days for freshmen, it's a busy campus. It is right now too, but it will become even busier. Another piece we'll outline in there is reminding families to do the back-to-school check-in, reminding our 6-12 families that we'll be reinforcing the cell phone no bell to bell at our middle and high school next year, and looking at that. And then any other updates that we might have referendum related by then. We have a few city meetings coming up in the next couple of weeks, so we'll kind of track those and see where we are at within other updates. I'd say the most exciting thing tonight, we obviously get a Sabre Center update. That's always exciting. That's our annual piece. We shifted that from May. I don't know why we ever thought that would be a good month when we have every school holding a concert at the Sabre Center along with other performances. So we shifted it to July, and in talking to President Sprague, it seems to be good timing, right? It's a little bit of a lull as Mr. Stewart is getting ready for the next season. He kind of has the next season in place. So if this goes well tonight and the board is in agreement, I think that this will probably be a nice timing. So we look forward to hearing that annual update. And the other really exciting part this evening is the coherence plan. And I'm not going to steal all the thunder of all the work that we've done that Dr. Moe is going to present tonight. But I think it is a really good opportunity to say it's a plan that all of the people at this table helped put together with hundreds of stakeholders. So I hope everybody feels proud about that. It's exciting to have the baseline data from the end of last school year and now to be able to compare it to where we're at this year. So we have a lot of really exciting results to share this evening. Obviously, areas to celebrate, always areas that we're going to continue to build core strategies about. As you're aware, we have our Leadership Summit, 3rd annual, coming up in a few weeks. That's where our school improvement teams start diving into really 5 whying or root causing. Why did we do well somewhere? Let's keep that going. Why didn't we do as well as we hoped somewhere? What design flaw do we have? What plan can we adjust? And what can we set up for this year? The fun part that we like to say is that it doesn't happen by chance, it happens by design. As you have seen throughout the year, and you'll see again tonight, our engagement scores for staff, for families, and for students have improved over the last year. This is the second year that all schools have engagement teams for all three of those groups. All staff are a part of those groups and are engaging in different ways. You've heard about empathy interviews. Key communicators is another way we're communicating with our greater community. We've increased that group. But again, it's not happening by chance, right? There's a lot of really particular design that we're going to talk about tonight and show those results, but then continue to dive back into in our leadership summit as we gear up for the year. Dr. Khan alluded to before, our AA2 rating for the Moody's credit. You know, that's a great celebration for the district and for years of great financial efforts. We're one of only 13 states, or not 13 states, 13 districts out of 421 in the state to have that rating or higher. So it's not something that's just handed out, and it's something for us to be proud of. I think forward thinking, like areas to improve, we're looking at and excited about the health clinic opening up. We're excited about some of the capital improvement list items, right? A few years ago, we looked at the almost $100 million of the next 10 years of capital improvement projects. We're taking a very big bite out of that because of a successful referendum by the support of our board and our community. So there's just a lot to celebrate. I could keep going. I actually do have more things typed up. However, I think the main things are, it doesn't happen by chance. It happens because we have the right people working in the right seats with the board supporting and a community that's behind us. It happens with a lot of communication, with trust, with transparency, and having the right administrators in buildings, and how we've built school improvement teams that are really bringing more voice from staff, and continuing to find ways to continue to do that so we can put plans into place. I would be remiss if I didn't mention, right, our retention numbers have improved and they're looking to improve again this year. We never fully count those till we're back with students in the seats and people in the front of the classrooms and the offices and all the other spaces making everything tick. But those continue to improve. And I think that we can credit some of that to our Better Place to Work, to being able to put a compensation model in, and to continue to improve in those areas. So thank you for your support, and I think that's the excitement tonight. We're going to hear about the Sabre Center. We're going to really celebrate a year of work and dedication and what's ahead for us. Any questions, let me know.
Thank you very much. All right, school board liaison reports. There was the graduation at American Family Field since our last meeting. Several of us were at that, and the parade last week. Several of us were at that. So I don't know if anybody wants to mention it. Linda, please.
Yeah, I just want to say that at the parade, a group of us decided there's a number of improvements we could make. We would like to go with bubbles rather than candy. Bubble guns would be good. And Debbie wants to ride the fire truck. And
It's true.
we want some T-shirts made, maybe. And we definitely have to upgrade the signage because it no longer works with the cars that we have.
Because we don't have the Jeep anymore?
Because they're not metal and the magnets don't.
Oh, yeah, gotcha, it's magnets.
So,
Yeah, we put those in them.
The magnets don't work right.
And I guess for graduation, I was at the graduation, I know, you may not know that, but I'm curious as to what the attendance was at graduation, if we could get that number.
I received several unsolicited comments from people who were at graduation, appreciating the proactive communication and planning around the fact that it was in a very hot day. So good job rolling with the punches on that and then communicating out the planning to everybody.
All right, anybody else for school and community engagement reports? All right, we'll move on to reports, presentations, other board business, electrician position, action item. Mr. Daniels, please.
Evening. So the last board meeting, we brought forth the proposal and some information about adding an electrician position. Just to quick summarize that, we shared the benefits of possibly adding that position, which included operational efficiencies, proactive maintenance, energy management, and sustainability, the cross-departmental support, flexibility for urgent and emergent situations, having another staff member that has flexibility in their schedule. But most importantly, the financial side of that, where We can identify cost savings for the district by bringing that position in-house rather than outsourcing a lot of the electrical work, and that was found not only in our operational budget, but also our capital budget. If you guys have any questions about that, I didn't want to go into deep details. We covered that last time, but I'd be happy to answer more questions. Otherwise, we're looking for action on that.
I move that we approve the electrician position as presented.
I'll second.
All right, motion was made by Dr. Beer, seconded by Mrs. Yank. Any further discussion? Please, Linda.
I do want to say, I think it might be too early to add this position. It is $208,000. I know they've demonstrated some offset in our capital plan, but I keep hearing Mr. Cromie saying he keeps wanting to add to that plan, so I'm not sure we're really going to be saving that money. So, and given the fact that we have this new capital projects going on, we have a relatively new building, I am not supporting this at this time. And I urge that you think about that also. It is $208,000.
Thank you. Anybody else, comments or questions? All right, all in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Opposed?
Aye.
No.
All right, the motion carries 4-2. Thank you.
Thank you.
All right, annual academic standards adoptions. Dr. Mo, please.
This again, it's kind of a formality that we go through each year. I did not receive any questions, so generally, you saw the list last time. I did not receive questions. We take what the state kind of puts forth. So I don't have anything else to add, but I would be happy to answer questions if people have them.
Linda, please.
So do parents ever call you and ask about these standards?
Sometimes.
So you do get, like, how many calls you get a year? Just curious.
For sure, less than 10, likely less than 5. At the district level, I would guess perhaps that teachers might get questions that they work on and answer with parents that I might not know about.
Okay.
To be fair, I can't speak to discussion. I have gotten 0 this year. I can speak for myself. I have gotten 0.
Okay, good. I mean, parents are aware of these and.
Correct,
just
they're
curious about
posted.
them. Just trying to get ahead of what they might be talking about, so.
I move that we approve the academic standards as presented.
I second it.
All right, motion was made by Dr. Beer, seconded by Dr. Khan. Any further discussion? All in favor? Aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. Thank you. Saber Center update. Mr. Stewart, please. Welcome.
Trying to get up here for you, Tracy. Excuse me.
I believe Mr. Comey's bringing up the
I'm working on it here.
PowerPoint here. Display slides. I only have about 2.5, 3 hours of presentation here, so.
Be song and dance?
No, I'm trying to get.
No, I'm more backstage.
Oh, okay.
I do want to say, I do love seeing our board members at our presentations, at our shows. Any of our community series things, please just reach out and I can arrange tickets for you as board members. And we'd be happy to have you at all of our shows.
The presentation's linked in the situation
Yeah,
report
let's get-
also,
we'll
so
get
you could
started on it.
probably start, Tracy,
Okay.
while
All right.
we just have to.
Cover slide basically was today's date. Next slide is our mission statement, which has not changed. Franklin Public Schools inspires personal success through learning experiences that focus on student needs and active partnerships with family and community. Our mission objectives align with that. There has not been editing of those mission objectives, and I don't believe we have any new board members this year, so don't need to spend any more time on that. Saber Center usage, this has been pretty consistent throughout my time here, that many of our performing classes, as far as our music programs, our art programs, dance programs, utilize the Saber Center for public demonstration and for practice and learning during the school day.
I do have a quick
Yes,
question.
Linda.
Going back to the mission statement and
Yes.
objectives. So who sets that? You don't have a separate board or how are those developed and who?
That was developed before my time. So it's kind of a carryover from Steve Kraus, who was my predecessor. Not sure, I believe those were developed right when the center was opened as far as a folk.
You don't report to a board or any oversight group?
No, I don't have any sort of oversight committee at the
Okay,
Saber Center.
thank you.
So as I was saying, we do have a lot of academic usage of the Saber Center. AP Research actually records all of their presentations in the Saber Center, gives those students a very professional venue to put those forward, because a lot of those go into college applications and such, and it's very nice to be able to provide a strong venue for that. As well as our health speaker series for our health classes. They usually do 5 to 6 per semester of having community health leaders come in and speak about mental motivation, drug usage, and the risks of that, sexual assault crimes, things like that the students need to be aware of. And again, it provides a great venue for the students to actually receive that information and make it more formal for them versus just the standard classroom. We support many community events, including Next Step Dance, which is a dance studio right here in Franklin, Academy of Performing Arts, which I can get into. Many of these are rental events, as well as some other community organizations in the greater Milwaukee area, like the Croatian Tamburicins folk music group, the Chinese Community Center, the Milwaukee Chinese Community Center for their New Year's, as well as our own event series that we present at the Saber Center. So our Saber Center rentals, as I was saying, not all of these are Franklin-based organizations, but some of them are, like Next Step and Academy of Performing Arts, Forte Theater Company. But we invite the greater Milwaukee community and host many people. The Nacharpana Dance Company, we usually have anywhere from 800 to 1,000 families from the Indian community come in for those programs throughout the summer.
Question?
Please, Linda.
Yes, can you
Yes.
tell me the dollar value of those rentals?
I did not add that up this year.
I don't have that information offhand.
Yeah,
Estimate? Or what was last year?
I don't have it prepared for this evening.
I don't
can-
have that prepared. That is something I can prepare for you this week and send it to Mr. Comey as
Can you
a
get that?
follow-up addendum for tonight's
Thank you.
presentation. Yeah. All right. Any other questions on rental organizations? There is one adjustment that we made to, basically in the management end of the rentals, is the scheduling and billing has been moved from my office to the rec office, just for streamlining, because they handle all of the rentals for everything else in the community. So basically, I'm now working more directly with rec on scheduling and billing and contracting those rentals rather than just going it alone, which is a welcome thing for me because it does take a lot of time to do that in my varied schedule. All right, facility upgrades. We didn't have any major purchases this year. We've had some major purchases in the last few years. Really, the main major purchase was a grand piano humidity protection system. Grand pianos will flux with the humidity of the air, and being in the Midwest, it can go anywhere from 90 to 20%, depending on the season. And having that humidity system keeps the piano from getting dried out, and it can cause cracks, which is what happened to our previous piano from just being in a classroom for 60 plus years. With a system like this, keeping it maintained, really the lifespan of the piano is almost unlimited if you take care of them. We are building a new presentation lectern. The lectern that we've had in the Saber Center doesn't match the woodwork of the Saber Center. It's a little narrow for presenters with computers and a script. It doesn't really have any electrical hookups to make that hookup efficient. So the stage crew students have actually built a new lectern. Unfortunately, the laser engraver in the technologies classrooms was broken, so we weren't able to get the plate for the front of it engraved this year. But this fall, I will get that project finished up, and we'll have a more substantial lectern that actually matches the woodwork of the Saber Center. And since that was just materials, it was a couple $100 instead of a few $1,000s that most professional lecterns run. Video system integrations, that was a couple small pieces of equipment, but mostly just reorganizing the way that the signal flowed around the Saber Center to enhance our backstage and lobby presentations. And then I worked with my intern this year who was intent on marketing and such, and we redesigned the website, the Saber Center website. If you go there now, it is much more navigable and streamlined. It was just a constant stream of posts, and so it's a lot more user-friendly now to click into exactly where you want to go. So our ticketing, are there any questions on upgrades or no? Ticketing system is the same. We're still using Ludus tickets. There is a new law that went into effect in May of all-in pricing for events, that the face value of the ticket and all fees need to be upfront all the time, even in advertising. So if you have, a $3 service fee on top of your $20 ticket, that needs to always be posted anytime that you put a ticket price out. So Ludus has been very good at, they've adjusted their software system to keep up with that. For live, yes.
And do you manage that also, or did that go to the rec department?
Yes, that, I do manage that also,
okay, they don't do
and then I send send any revenues directly into the district office for processing, and Michelle and Andy take care of exactly how that works in the budgets.
Oh, they go through our books, the ticket prices?
The Saber Center runs under the district, yes.
Yep.
I thought the show sold the tickets and they rented the facility.
For some of them, a lot of our rentals, only some of our rentals are ticketed, some are free community events. For example, Forte Theater Company does run their own ticketing, so
They just rent those
it's
spaces.
just a straight rental, and they handle all of their ticketing themselves. There is one rental event that we do process tickets for, and that's the Distinguished Young Women program. We do handle their tickets, and that's something that I just do for them. And I send the revenue check into the district office, and then it is funneled through the district office to the organization for their revenues. But so the district does have record of that, but with rental events, it just processes through. For live streaming, I did create a YouTube channel, Saber Center Production on YouTube for live streams. Just a more accessible thing than the password protected thing that I had before. I spoke with a couple of licensing agencies, music licensing agencies, and they said for school live streams, there's no additional thing, so you don't really need to put it behind a password wall or anything like that. They said putting it up on YouTube is perfectly fine with music licensing. So
Those are like school concerts.
yeah, school concerts and such, because it's educational. So it goes under the fair use of in education. So, all right. Gate attendance for 24-25 was 22,585. That's through all rental events that we track, and district events and such, including all of our elementary programs that they go through. And so we have every elementary family in the Saber Center every April, May. And so we have a lot of Franklin residents coming through.
So is that more or less than last year? What's the trend?
I believe it was a little bit more than last year. I'd have to look at the presentation for last year, but I do believe it was slightly more, not a huge jump, but Any more questions on that? No? All right. We have a tech crew at the Sabre Center, and we had 32 registered students for that tech crew club through FHS activities. Some of them were more intent on working just a couple of shows here and there, but I had 3 technology students working in the booth on lighting and sound with me very intently, and I know that Gary, our carpenter for our shows, had about 8 kids that stayed even after all of our shows were done to help organize and work on small projects and things like that, and get more learning back in the shop. That was fantastic. We've been recruiting from different areas around the school, like textiles for costume, art students for scenic painting, things like that. And that is one of our intents this year, is to develop that even more and broaden our scope, broaden our umbrella, because it's a place for everybody. Along with that, our drama programs. As far as the fall play, I didn't get a split of how many students were tech crew versus on stage. I believe it was more tech crew than on stage with the fall play. The spring musical, 25 cast members, 22 student musicians, and 27 crew members. And then the middle school drama club, 32 cast members, 13 student crew members. It was actually capped at 13 because we have to actually transport some students over to the shop, and we have limited time with them. So having more than 6 kids in the shop with 1, even 2 supervisors becomes a safety concern, because we do have the students running, hand drills and things like that. We don't have them running like the major power saws and such, but we do have them running some equipment and lifting things, and so we'd like to keep a cap on that. So, but we have a lot of students coming into the program as well.
I appreciate that all the shows are run by the students.
Yes.
Students are in the pit, the students are behind the scenes.
Yep.
And building the scenes, and the students are doing the acting, and that's appreciated. Thank you.
Yes, absolutely. I even have middle schoolers running the lighting and soundboards up in the booth, which is a fantastic thing to do. And I look forward to growth as we grow a curricular program at the high school for theater. Hopefully it's 1 class this year, and hopefully 2-3 classes next year, and eventually in a few years be a full-time position just teaching theater and getting our students in that. Because the thing I love about theater is there's the old saying of, does art imitate life or life imitate art? And the answer is yes, it's both. And so there is a place for everyone in theater, because you build a world of the play. All right, and then the Franklin Community Event Series, we had 4 presentations this year. Etta May, national comedian, The Founding, a folk group out of Michigan, for their Christmas program. Piano Men featuring Jim Witter, an improvised Broadway musical improv group. Very good community response to these programs. We're still developing our audience, still developing our marketing plan, but the series is definitely growing in exposure, and in talking with a few other venue managers around, they've responded that they've seen my marketing, and they've seen what I'm putting together, and like how it's growing, including South Milwaukee, which is one of the oldest running community event series. They've celebrated their 20th year this year, and Rachel over there has helped out quite a bit with helping me keep stuff organized and reaching out, and how she kind of manages and develops that.
Just a quick question. So,
Yes, Linda.
So that's you're doing that? Is Forte doing that? Or?
No, that is me. I'm putting that together. Yeah, Forte is a separate organization. They do their own shows and everything. So this is events that I'm working with the agents on booking fees and running all the promotions and really building that for the community to come in and see what we have to offer. Bring some national touring acts and things into Franklin. So on development this year, we put a lot of focus into marketing, building that marketing. I had a marketing intern that was recommended to me from the business classes. She did a lot of work with our graphics development, branding development, and organizing and kind of thinking strategically of what can we do and where do we want to go with this. So we actually have a really good 3-year plan built of how we're going to get our voice out more in the fairly noisy Milwaukee community. I'm sure Dr. Beer can attest to how difficult it is just to get noticed that you're doing things down here in Franklin. We have secured some advertising for our program. Forte Theater Company, we put ads in their program, and we're cooperatively with them. Hampton Inn and Suites at 76th and Rawson is an advertiser and gives us actually a room block for our series to host our artists coming in. And Brooks Communication did some consulting this year with me. Much of it was paid consulting to help with my intern building that 3-year plan and developing that. But he gave us a steep discount on what his normal rate is for building a marketing strategy. And so we cooperatively put ads in the program for him. That's Eric Brooks. He's a former mayor of South Milwaukee and has a communications firm that he's growing now. Any questions on development? So next year's shows, we have a 3-show series next year. Starting in December, we have a major facilities upgrade happening in September with our house lights. About 6 or 7 of the house lights in the auditorium have failed. They're 10 years old now, actually 11 years old now. And so Andy Daniels has budgeted in replacing the house lights fixtures. The control system is staying the same, just the fixtures, and to do that they have to take a bunch of seats out to access the ceiling because they don't drop in and they're 25 feet in the air. So I wasn't able to do an early fall show. We have an October show, November show, December show with Forte Theater and the FHS theater program. So it starts out with the Milwaukee Choristers, a local group that has been doing shows for, I believe, 60 years in the Milwaukee area. Very good reputation, excellent group, and they're coming in with their Christmas program. It'll be a 2-night program, Friday and Saturday, in the middle of December. In January, we have an artist, Alex Zerbe, the Zaniac, coming in. He's been on America's Got Talent, Last Comic Standing. He was one of the quarterfinalists on that. Just amazing performer. I like to describe him as Bill Nye's intellect with Carrot Top's energy. So if you know those artists. And then Mutt's Gone Nuts, which we actually had in our first series program in the spring of 2024, did very well with us, and they were interested in coming back and doing another show. So we grabbed them up for May. So that'll be right after all of our elementary programs. So we'll be able to market that to the elementary families and hopefully sell out the house if it isn't sold out already. All right. Any questions on any of that? I know I probably went over the 10 minutes that Andy had told me, but.
I guess, so what are your broad goals for next year?
Broad goals this year, develop our marketing plan and reach out to more community leaders for support, advertising, or even just cooperative support of, hey, share this on your social media, share this to people that you know that we're doing these things, and try and really build up that community, because I still talk to residents of Franklin that don't know we're doing this. They're like, oh, that's just high school shows. And they're not even aware of what Forte Theater Company has been doing. And what is Forte's sixth season this year?
Our sixth season.
Yeah, so yeah, we're proud to host Forte Theater Company for everything, except your Christmas show this year, but just schedule wasn't open enough for that. But another goal this year is, like I said, recruiting a broader range of students into the theater community. Textiles, arts, business management for marketing and running front of house and customer relations. Also industrial tech kids. That's actually how I got into theater. I was an industrial tech kid and had to take an English elective, so I took theater, and we had to work on the show. So I was like, I don't want to be on stage, I'll be in the shop, and just absolutely fell in love with it. And that was junior year of high school. I had no interest in theater whatsoever, and then went on to study that in college. So doing that sort of outreach and development.
Do you have any attendance goals, or, are the shows 50%? I don't know what your performance
I haven't really set specific attendance goals. Like I said, I'm developing the marketing more, so hopefully that'll go along. So I will track that. I'll follow up with what the attendance difference was from last year to this year.
Yeah, I was just going to add what Tracy and I have kind of talked about with the community series is, can this collective of shows essentially break even as a good scenario? So one show might not make as much money because it just wasn't the right show for us. Other shows might. So like Mutt's Gone Nuts is coming back because that did great 2 years ago. So bringing that to the mix. So how do we get several different things in there that provide a different avenue for someone to want to come? So if we had all 4 shows that were exactly the same, probably not what we're really looking for. But how do we find a collective of shows that can bring different members into the Sabre Center all together? How do they work collectively to break, at least at a minimum, break even over the course of the year? So Tracy works on what are the acts, when are they coming? Because not everybody comes in this area. A lot of our acts, right, they tour the country and then they hit certain parts. We're not going after Aerosmith, who pick and choose where they want to go and whenever they want. So we're going after acts that also have to be regional as well, or be coming into the region at that particular time. So
yeah, so I do partner with a lot of other, communicate with a lot of other venues around the state. Actually, I had a conference just a few weeks ago with the Wisconsin Presenters Network, where it's all venue managers from all around Wisconsin, and we look at, okay, what are people looking at bringing in, what styles of acts. So then as tours get announced of who's actually going to be out on the road, we can get back together and say, okay, we've got Wausau, Green Bay, Milwaukee, and say La Crosse, all wanting to bring in, some sort of like 70s yacht rock thing, because that's just kind of what their audience is kind of looking at right now. How can we partner together to entice a group to come in at a lower price? Say their normal booking fee is $8,000. Well, if we're offering them 4 shows in like 4 or 5 days, maybe they do 4,000 or 5,000 because of that guarantee and building that kind of partnership. That's how I was able to bring Etta May in. Normally she would be well above what I would consider to be something that I can make my revenue, make my expenses back. And but I partnered with Ashwaubenon by Green Bay on doing that and was able to bring her in at a reasonable.
And there is a formal group of these theaters? That
Yep.
that
Yeah,
meets
Wisconsin Presenters Network. There's also a Minnesota Presenters Network, an Iowa Presenters Network, Illinois Presenters Network. So I can even reach out to, I've got contact information for venue managers all over Illinois and Iowa, Minnesota to bring in, so we can basically collectively try and recruit in those bigger shows.
All right, great, thank you. Anybody else, questions? comments?
No, just, I want the minutes to reflect that Yacht Rock was mentioned at this meeting.
I'm working on it.
All right, thank you, Mr. Stewart. Coherence Plan End of the Year Report. Dr. Mo, please.
1 second. All right. Thank you, everybody. I just have
Oh, dear.
oh dear is right. I'm gonna sit back so I don't touch it. I'm not sure. One quarter's working, one isn't. So, there were two attachments in, that I attached for you to look at today. One is this document you see up here, and then one is the actual updated coherence plan. I'm gonna toggle back and forth between them. This has more detail. The situation report is more of an overview. So if you're someone who likes to follow along with more detail, you could use this document while I'm projecting this, but that's the two documents I'm going to be referring to. So I am the lucky person that gets to share the work of our whole district, our department, our communities. And as much work as it was to get all of this together, it's probably the most excited I've been to bring a presentation to the board. Number one, we finally have it in a format. In fact, when I previewed with Mike, he said, this is what we've been asking for all these years, like a clear format with clear metrics, so you can look at the situation report and get the high-level overview. That would have not been possible without Mark Grunsky. I know I always shout him out, but this project, building dashboards, building clear data, has been his baby since he started here. I cannot tell you how, rewarding it was to put this together, but also easy. So he and I have spent the last 3 years, there's a spreadsheet that tells exactly where each data point is pulled from, exactly what day it's pulled, we've never had that. So you can go down the list and say, this is from this is from this. I'm not gonna get into the details of that tonight, but just know, and if you see Mark, especially he is the one who took all this work and distilled it down into something that I feel is pretty easy for all of you to understand as board members with some inside information, but more importantly for the community to understand, like it's in a little bit more usable format, that maybe we can have conversations out in the community about our work because it's a little bit more real people terms. So what you see here on the situation report is the same thing that you see here in front of the coherence plan. So what we did was take our coherence plan that you all adopted a year ago, it was at the July meeting a year ago, and updated it with our information for this year. We have one data point that we could not get, and that is AP scores. So kids got their individual reports this week, but the aggregated data is not released for public until next week. So because AP scores are part of this right here, this college and career readiness indicator, that held up that whole category. So that's a little bit disappointing. Where the July meeting fell was enough for individual reports, but not public reports. So I will share that with you either through Annalise KYI, or I'll email you separately. So as soon as we get that, it's supposed to be released next week, so I'm hoping soon. But otherwise, what you see here in our 4 categories, learning, engagement, well-being, and fiscal stewardship, this number in the circle right here is the overall score for that category. So that score is determined by taking each one of these indicators and producing a score of a 5, 4, 3, 2, or 1 for each of those and averaging into the overall score. So this is the big score. If you scroll down, that is a screenshot from what's in here. So if you're a detail person, you're going to want to see those individual scores, but more importantly, you're going to want to see these celebrations, which was on purpose an internal data metric that we used to support the larger coherence plan metric. So for instance, when we talk about behavior outcomes, our coherence plan metric is suspensions and expulsions. But really, internally, we were looking at things like behavior referrals, SABRs, our social emotional screener scores. So some of the celebrations are in those metrics that we don't share as publicly as the coherence plan metric, but the news is still very good. So if you haven't had a chance to look already, please look at those celebrations, because there's some really good data hidden in there. I am very, very pleased to report that we held constant or increased in every single indicator except ACT. So when we're scoring those so that was disappointing. We're going to talk about that. But we have such tremendously good growth in the other areas of kids moving up to that. I'm feeling really good that we can turn the corner on ACT, which I know has been important to the board. But we have not had a year since I've started that we've seen that. So when I talk about year over year, the best place to look is this page. What was the score at our baseline, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1? And then what was the score this year? You can see that we increased that 5, 4, 3, 2, 1 in those areas when I'm talking about that. We have not had that sort of growth prior to this year. So that's the big, if I leave you with one message, it's that we're seeing really good things kind of coming up to lead to hopefully turn the corner on that ACT. So our first category is learning. You can see on the chart here in parentheses is the 5, 4, 3, 2, 1 that was scored on that indicator last year and then this year. I want to call out and take a moment to explain the growth that we have seen in K-8 reading and K-8 math. So if you're not aware how MAP works, they give you 2 scores. One is an achievement percentile, meaning if you took AJ's score and ranked it against all the other kids his age across the country, how does his score fall compared to that on a percentile? I know I'm going to use the example that I use that Angie said isn't really true, but it's like going to the doctor and they give your kids height and weight on a percentile rank. The more important one is the growth indicator. It's also done by percentile, but to put your gauge right, we expect a kid to grow at the 50th percentile. The 50th percentile means that students are making a year's growth in a year's time, exactly what you would expect on average. So when we see right here for K-8 reading growth and then K-8 math growth, the fact that this number is above 50 means that on average, K-8 students in Franklin made more than a year's growth in a year's time. Even more importantly is we take that measure on spring to spring. So it was their spring score as a 3rd grader versus their spring score as a 4th grader. That's much different than looking at the scores of fall of 4th grade and spring of 4th grade, because kids kind of do a cycle. So Mark Grunsky and I have this joke, I am a spring to spring champion and he is a fall to spring arguer about which data is better. But if you have a kid that grows fall to spring, right? They make their growth target, they drop during the summer, and they grow from fall to spring again. You're not seeing that trend line go up. They're kind of just improving in a circle, if that makes sense. So I want to stress that this is on spring to spring, meaning that that trend line is going up in a better way. I guess I would argue, right? True improvement from 3rd to 4th grade versus just meeting your goal as a 4th grader. We can cite a lot of things for that. I think we can cite MLSS, we can cite SAVIS, kind of getting ahead, firming that up. But I think it's also just collectively getting better with data and getting better aligned with departments and goals and being as transparent as we possibly can about what we see. So that's the first piece of really good news is that growth score.
Quick question.
Yes.
So the achievement is, if I see 69.62 in math,
Yes.
so that means that 69% of our students are proficient?
No.
No.
That means if we took the average student achievement score, they would be better across the millions of scores that they collect in the nation than 68%, right? If you took everybody and ranked them from highest to lowest.
It's a nationally normed, yeah.
It's a nationally normed, millions and millions of data points. So that has nothing to do with how many students. That has to do with the average score that our kids had is compared to everybody else in the country is at just about 70% if you're looking at math.
And I think the other important part about that, right, is that the 60 to 65% is saying that that's typically correlating with proficiency on the forward exam. So the nice part about the MAPS exam is that it's our universal screener. It also allows us to do some like microdosing to check in on how things are going, maybe with students on plans, but then also gives you the bigger alignment, right, to the lagging data that we get from the forward exam annually.
Forward exam data is still embargoed. I wish I could share it. Let's just leave it at that. So it
It'll
is
be a
still
really
embargoed.
exciting fall when they unembargo.
It's going to be very exciting. So we do have the scores. In the good news category, we never used to get forward exam scores until middle of summer. They promised them to us in May, and they did actually arrive in May. So we have them, but it'll be embargoed until the state report cards are released.
Were you going to say anything about ACT in terms of how you address that or what you are doing?
Well, I was going to say something about the ACT. So if you look at the core strategy areas on the page inside here, this document, a very big thing that we are adding, so I don't know, we don't have any high school kid people, maybe Mike left, is we are adding a fall administration of the ACT. You'll have a high schooler, right? Of the ACT and the pre-ACT. You have one too?
We graduate a lot, but we still.
Sorry.
have a lot.
Oh, yeah, and I already used AJ. But, so you will see that will be new. I don't know if the kids know that yet, so
They're
if
gonna be
you're,
so
if you're
excited.
watching, they're going to be happy.
You can break it to them early if you want.
If you'd like to tell.
I'm going to tell her tonight.
On September 10th, ninth graders and 10th graders will take a fall administration of the pre-ACT, and 11th graders will take a fall administration of the ACT. We have never had a fall data point at high school anymore for people to work off of. We've kind of gone around, we piloted some different programs. We're going to use pre-ACT's test, and we are going to make our own so ACT releases the questions, and once the questions are released, you're free to use them. We're going to make our own test with the ACT. So it evened the cost out. So the big thing, Linda, is that then we'll take those scores and we'll be able to build a system at the high school of addressing those kids. So maybe if you're low in geometry, you're going to be assigned to a gold block around geometry. I'm just for 2 days a week. Or the math team, the ninth grade math teachers, the IM1, IM2 teachers are going to sit down and review this fall test of ACT data for their students and be able to align and intervene and do some work sooner. In the good news category, pre-ACT, so we always take that. That's not a coherence plan metric, but we always take it, has shown gap closure in every single service group. So leading up to that ACT, we saw a little bit, one group of gap closure for ACT. We did not see as much as we want. So remember, those service groups are free and reduced lunch. So that group is served. That's where that comes from by Title I. English learners, that group is served by Title III. And then students with IEPs or special education, which is served by IDEA. So that's a term that the state uses for those three groups. I don't particularly like that term, but it's because they're served, talking about budget, by financial pieces in federal law.
Is the ACT number just for those kids that took the actual ACT, or is it also the pre-ACT?
Correct.
numbers?
It is for kids who took the ACT and only the state required one in the spring. So we have some kids that go out on their own and take the ACT to try to get a higher score. Their parents choose to do that. This number is from the state required March 9th or 10th, it was this year, state ACT. Just that one score that everybody has to.
So we're not comparing it to the same kids at any rate, like we are with the from third grade to
No,
fourth grade.
we are not.
through.
That's
It's
11th
a
graders
different-
have a
it's
one-time
different
shot.
Cohort of kids.
That is correct. Good question.
And
And
the
we
exciting thing, not to interrupt you,
No, it's
Dr.
okay.
Mo, but the exciting thing I think about also with the ACT, like we have room to improve. But starting around January, we had some pretty strong conversations with the high school about that gold block. And then when we're having our PLC time to meet our professional learning community and talk about things, it was a lot of curricular driven or teachers talking about what they need for plans, which is good planning. But it was missing the piece about really drilling into the students and talking about where our students struggling or what different service groups we're talking about. And so that shift and that thinking and how that was going really took place then with the administrative team and the staff at the high school. And they saw a positive response from the staff too. And like, oh, we've been wanting to do that. So they've been able to work through the pieces that are tricky in a high school, right? Like what PLC, what professional learning community do I go to? Because I might have, I teach multiple sections of things. So am I going to the science one, or how do we align our CTE groups? So they've come up with a lot of different ways basically to manage the student data too, so that, Noelle Bisog is one that's really been an example. She's like, I love it because I can jump into the meeting notes from those PLCs, see the students that I work with, know what maybe needs they have to meet their learning style, or their learning needs, and she's been able to incorporate that in her classroom, right? And we're hearing that in lots of different pockets, so it gives a lot of, good momentum going into the next school year to say, okay, we kind of have those pieces worked out and we've started doing that, but now we can really hit this summer leadership summit talking about how are we best going to be aligned for that when we start looking at that professional learning time and then that gold block that aligns with it at the high school.
The other piece of good news there, I just want to review, the service group metric is still a little bit hard to understand. So if you picture 9 groups that we're tracking for gaps, so we're tracking 3 academic measures, ACT composite, K-8 reading, K-8 math, with 3 different groups of kids, those 3 service groups. So a 3x3, 9 possible places that we could close gaps. At our baseline, we are only closing gaps in 1 of those 9, which was far from desirable. This year, we're closing in 5 of 9 groups. So for EL students, they close gaps in ACT and K-8 math. For special ed, they closed gaps in reading and math. And then for free and reduced lunch, they closed gaps in math. So that alone, when we talk about that growth percentile and those, so we have an average growth percentile, but then you have to work extra hard behind the scenes to close those larger gaps. So I feel like those 2 things combined, I felt pretty good that it wasn't just one or the other, that combined we're seeing that growth. So I'll pause there. That's the learning category in a nutshell. ACT is a great question. We were not happy about that score either. I mean, nobody wants to sit here and say we went down in ACT composite. So, but I'm proud of the high school. As Annalee alluded, they are kind of taking it on and going to go full in and try to turn the corner on that.
And they all have to take it, right?
Correct. Just in the spring, it's required once, Linda, in the spring. We have a lot of kids who take it 3, 4, 5, 6 times sometimes if that's their family's wish. But we don't count those scores. ACT and colleges count those scores. So you've heard of a super score. Some kids kind of play the game on, if you take the test 4 times, you can pick and choose which sub-score you want to take to make your highest composite score to apply to college. So that's the desire for some kids to take it multiple times. Okay, moving on to engagement. So our overall engagement score was 4.5 out of 5, and we went up on every single measure. When you look at our student engagement survey, employee engagement survey, family engagement survey, those first 3 points, that's the average score out of 5 points on those surveys. So when you see 4 point something, 3 point something, that's the average score when they answer those questions. The other great thing about engagement is I worked with Matt Gomez at REC to get some data, and engagement is not just that survey. It is far from that. We have increases in all of our REC department enrollment things for kids. So kids camp, kids club, all that contributes to engagement. When we look at staff and employee engagement, Annalee already teed up, our teacher retention is looking to be the best it's been since I've been here in a good way. But we also have the celebration of putting in that compensation model. So trying to think about and be transparent with people that all those little things going on behind the scenes, I think it's fair to say that when our metric increases, that they are making a difference. We'll never know exactly which thing made the biggest difference, but collectively. Family engagement, one thing I noted in the celebration, so just to review with you, there's that metric called the Net Promoter Score. That's the score. How likely would you be to recommend this district to a friend? We've seen our highest Net Promoter Score ever, meaning that when you have people out in the community that can positively go out, the scientists behind that metric would say when people switch from just being a supporter to a net promoter, when they're actively going out and saying good things about our district, engaging with the community. So that was good news there. The attendance measure is chronic absenteeism, so I just wanted to call attention. We don't measure habitual truancy, so that's the unexcused absences, like kids who may be in trouble for habitual truancy. This measure is kids missing school for excused and unexcused. So that's something to watch. You've probably read since COVID, that's increased nationwide. We are not immune to it here, but we did manage to shave a percentage point off the number of kids who are chronically absent, meaning if they're enrolled for at least a semester, they've missed 10% or more of days, excused or unexcused. So just say that could be to go to Disney, that could be because you're sick, or that could be that you skipped school. For this metric, they all go into the bucket of missing school. So just so Franklin Public Schools, 9%, 9.07% of students missed more than 10% of days in 24-25. So I know sometimes you all get asked things in the community, that's how you would explain the difference between chronic absenteeism and habitual truancy. It's more than just skipping school. It's kids who are being excused to not be in school, and that's a little bit more difficult nut to crack.
But our attendance is down from last year.
Our attendance is up from last year. Less kids are chronically absent, so that's one where we'd want the score to be lower, or we'd want the percentage to be lower. We want less kids to be missing 10% of days. So we had 10% of kids who did that last year. We have 9% of kids that did that this year. Okay. So, questions about engagement? Sorry, I'm trying to keep it high level. The other thing that I just wanted to say about this idea of service groups, so for instance, something that we see is students in service groups, so free and reduced lunch, special ed, EL, generally speaking, have a higher chronic absenteeism rate than all kids. It's a difficult thing. So for those groups, so whenever I look at this data, you take the filter and I look at it for those three groups of kids. For that group, it's running more like 12% if we just pulled out, right? So we have to get at that. Annalee used the example of root causing, like why is it if you're a student with an IEP, you're missing more school? We can speculate that, but we're gonna need to get in and do empathy interviewing and talk about the student experience and get with those families, like what is that? I'm not saying they're school skippers, naughty, but something is causing them to miss more school. Maybe it's medical, maybe it's not, but it's a problem. When kids miss instruction, they can't learn, and we have to figure out how to get at that. So just as an example, that service group carries through. All right, the well-being category is the area that we don't have an overall score in because of those AP tests, but we do have the other metrics to report to you. We just can't calculate for an overall score. Something that I wanted to share about behavior outcomes. So remember that metric for behavior outcomes is the percent of our students with in-school suspension, out-of-school suspension, expulsion. So that's what it's measuring. But we cut our behavior referrals, so that's kids getting sent to the office for something on that behavior matrix that's office managed, so more than just forgetting a pencil. They've done something that's a violation of the code of conduct. We cut those from baseline to this year by about 350. So you saw that 350 less referrals, which likely carries through into less suspensions and expulsions, right? Like less kids getting referred, or the ones who do get referred, we're able to intervene, make a plan, give an intervention, whatever that is. So behind the scenes know that we've cut those referrals. The other thing to know is at the high school, they track attendance through behavior referrals. So many of those, so they assign detention hours as like a log entry as a behavior referral when you hit a certain point. So that's apples to apples comparison, but that also includes kids who maybe have been tardy 10 times and they're issuing a consequence for that. That's way in the weeds, but just know that doesn't mean there's hundreds and hundreds of kids of doing very major things. It's just how we track that. The other thing is I know we've talked about, we do the SABRS behavior screener in grades 3 to 8. We had a very high percentage of kids who are considered low risk. So that's something that we use internally. The teacher does a rating, the student does a rating of themselves. We look at how that matches. The first year we did it, parents had a lot of questions. They talked to their school psychs. The second year we did it, parents were like pros. Yeah, I get this. I can talk to my kid. They had direct conversations with the teachers, exactly what we wanted, right? AJ gets his score, Andy and Jenny have a concern, they can talk to somebody, talk through, they can talk to their kids, so I feel like we're getting that kind of into the way that we do business in Franklin, and parents are feeling more comfortable, which is good. When people get upset when parents call, I say the best possible outcome you can hope for is that a parent would see something and call you to talk about it. We should celebrate even if they're mad at us. You can't ask for parent involvement, then only say, I want good parent involvement and donuts and prizes for Teacher Appreciation Week. You also have to have parents come to you when things aren't right to try to work through it. And I think our teachers and school psychs have really done a nice job on that with Sabres and building some trust there for what that's worth. We were here a year ago in November to report at-risk numbers to you. That's a state criteria, and remember, we kind of teed up. We would bring back at-risk numbers as a coherence plan metric. So that number you see there, we have a percentage point-ish, a half a percentage point less students. It was enough to bump to the next rating that are considered at-risk. So students in grades 5 to 12 that are at risk based on the state criteria, which is more good news. I'm going to pause. Questions about those indicators? I know I live them every day, but you all don't, so no question is silly for what that's worth.
How have we done with getting kids from at risk to not at risk anymore by the end of the year? I know we've been very successful in the past.
We have.
Has that been the same this year?
That's been the same this year. It kind of ebbs and flows, so you see very few fifth graders at risk because it's hard for them to get 2 indicators. You see less middle schoolers at risk because it's hard for them to get indicators. When you get into high school, that's when credit deficiency kicks in and tends to be the second indicator for kids. So they might have been at risk, not state criteria as middle schoolers, but they don't get on that list until they get 2 of those indicators. Year over year, we had kids come off. I'd have to look at the numbers, Mike, when I go back. I want to say it's 27 kids that were on and came off that list, like the swing of that many. I can get it for you, the exact number of kids. But if I'm being honest, kids come off and then some new kids come on. So when semester grades come off, we are not. My prediction is that we may kind of hover right around this 3-4%. As a trend. I'm not saying that's good or bad, but as kids coming off, I don't ever see us getting that to 0 or even below where we're at, if I'm being fair.
Do those, that risk numbers include the Community Rehabilitation Center?
All of those students would be statutorily at risk, but we use only the students, it's a great question, our data rule is only students who are in attendance on third Friday. So for the CRC, that could be a swing of 10, 15 kids. It's the kids who, it's only the official count that we use.
Okay.
So those 11 kids may be completely different kids from the 27 that are there the next month. But they would all be, yes, every single student enrolled at the CRC would qualify as statutorily at risk.
So those numbers, so they are included?
Those are correct, yes.
Okay, thank you.
But it's not all the kids. It's a
Understand,
dipstick, if
yeah,
I'm being
right,
fair.
yeah.
It's probably underreported because we just took a dipstick on a particular
Yeah.
day. And that population changes sometimes on the daily. Last indicator is fiscal stewardship. So you can see on there, Annalee already told you about the bond rating, which is probably our biggest celebration for fiscal stewardship. This is our only indicator where we have that score of 1 on the 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. I don't think after all the conversations we've had over the last 2 years about health insurance that's probably a surprise to anybody on the board. I don't know if it's a surprise to anybody in the public or how much people are aware of that or how much feedback you guys get on that, but that's not where we want to be. We're working on improving. We've taken some steps already to improve that and recover from that, but that's not where we want to be. But the rest of the indicators look great there. So we're just happy about that bond rating, happy about the health clinic. I mean, we have a lot of good things on the horizon to kind of get at that 1 to nudge it up. So it feels kind of exciting. I also told Annalee today, I think it also keeps you honest. Like, nobody wants to report a 1, but I hopefully, as an unintended consequence, it builds a little bit of trust that, yep, these are the metrics and we're going to report. We can't unreported one for health insurance. Like, that is what it is right now. So I think it also kind of keeps it real for hopefully building some trust with the community that we are legitimately reporting the data as clear and honest as we possibly can.
What exactly, and I apologize, I'm sure it's in here, what exactly does a 1 mean? It's satisfaction? Or,
1 is not good.
One-
That means
right,
we
is not
have no
good,
fund
right.
balance for health insurance.
If you go to that indicator page
yes.
in your
Sorry.
document, it's page, we'll put page numbers on, like, oh,
It
it's fine, I
is-
noted that, but it's page 19.
Thank you.
So when you're looking at a 1, yeah, it's the unrestricted fund balance, or I'm sorry, I'm in the fund balance one, it's not 18. It's the one ahead of that,
To get to a 5 in that
17.
indicator, Mary, we'd need that 20% over the prior year. So when we're talking about the 5, 4, 3, 2, 1, we're talking about this strip right here.
But hopefully, I'm hoping that with the health clinic starting up, and then because even our health insurance is not 10 years old, we just kind of still baby, age of as such. So hopefully, down the road, unfortunately, health insurance is becoming, health expenses are there. It's getting more expensive and more expensive, especially taking the cost of inflation, which is there. But hopefully, our hopes with the clinic, will pan out, and hopefully in a year or two, because it does take time. I think it's not a shock to anyone that it is at level 1, because we can't expect it to be magic within 1 or 2 years. It takes at least 5 years for things to pan out. So I'm hoping that the clinic opening up, and then 2 to 3 years we'll be starting seeing that it goes from 1 to 2 and 2 to 3, hopefully.
That's our hope as well.
Please, Linda.
And really, the only way to generate fund balance is to underspend. Is that correct? In health insurance,
Correct.
underspend. Okay, yeah, it's a long road.
Yep.
Although
Correct.
We have, it's part of general fund balance. It's not a segregated fund, correct?
While it is part of the general fund balance, it is not considered unrestricted. It has moved into a restricted fund balance amount or account to only be used for health insurance.
And you can, we can move money into that account. Could the board do that?
We could choose to do that, yes.
Yes, okay, all right, thank you. You could fix that overnight if we wanted to.
To
sort of
add money to
artificial,
self-funded
yeah.
health, to add money to that? To have a safety net for self-funded health?
We could just allocate some of the fund balance to insurance.
You could, I
Well,
think.
technically, we could. It has to get expensed at the end of the year anyways. So whether you have it under self-funded health as part of your fund balance, it would still just get expensed out at the end of the year. The board could choose to say, we would like to take some of this unrestricted fund balance and move it into self-funded health. We could choose to do that. That doesn't solve any of the operational problem of it, though.
Oh, correct, that's another dynamic.
Yeah.
Another dynamic, but.
Correct.
As an indicator, we have plenty of
Well,
general fund balance.
I guess I would say that that's an artificial inflation of self-funded insurance then to do that. We could move a self-funded health insurance amount in there and put it down as a 5 to say we have a 5, but we didn't do anything to solve self-funded health. We made an accounting move between 2 accounts to move money into it. So it'd be an artificial 5, in my opinion, if we did that.
Okay, it's a long road, to say that.
Which self-insurance is, right? It doesn't happen, I think Dr. Maksud said it well, it doesn't happen overnight or even over a couple of years, like it takes time, and we've discussed enough that we had a heavy year, right? So, yeah, it'll take a path. We're not gonna go from 1 to 5 next year.
No.
But we hope to be at 2, right? And I think there's a lot of proactive planning to get there, some changes to health insurance, opening the clinic, choosing a partner that we know is gonna be out there. I call it marketing, but helping to be in front of our staff to show like what you can have done at the clinic, what is wellness, like really being integrated to get more, foot traffic through the door right off the bat to increase those pieces. But yeah, it's not gonna go 1 to 5 overnight.
Any other questions? If not, then as soon as we're sure that AP comes through, I'll make sure to get that last score and we'll update and go from there. So thank you.
Thank you very much. Any further questions? Mary, please.
I know that we exchanged emails about the bullying aspect. Is that I know it was included in here in some.
Bullying
form or fashion.
could be one of those suspendable offenses, right? I would say loosely included in here, so to speak, in that behavior category, right? It's connected maybe to sabers and some other things, but there is no specific bullying metric. That's coming on a future agenda. Talk about the discipline matrix, talk about bullying. So we added that in for a plethora of reasons. So like I said in email, hopefully what you're looking for is going to be answered September 10th, 24th, 10th?
Okay.
Yeah, one of the,
Anyone else?
I just want to congratulate you all on both the quality of the presentation of the data, both on paper, it's eminently understandable. Your facility in explaining it to us, you clearly live this every day, and I appreciate your ability to speak off the cuff to handle any number of questions. And then congratulations on the growth, especially in the academic achievement categories. I was excited to read this report. Good job, team.
We were too. So if you see anyone else, I just get to report it.
That's
but
fine.
All those, teachers too.
Yeah.
As an anecdotal thing, we were doing some interviews this week, and I had 3 different people, unrelated, come after those interviews and just say like, wow. And we had internal candidates. So the quality of teachers in Franklin, like at these interviews, is just so good. I go the afternoon, I meet with Andy Thompson. He said, I was at St. Luke's, and St. Luke's approached me and said, what are you guys doing in Franklin that your CNAs that come out of Franklin are just so much sharper and resilient and have these soft qualities compared? Like, I need to get with you. What are you doing? So, like, you take that quantitative data that we have to look at and have to report and layer in some of that, like, tracking down Andy, your kids have something going on that we want to give other kids. So please spread that. Tell some of the Andys and Amandas and the teachers in the classroom and the people that quietly do it. Because those little things, like that was just one of my days where people are like, my goodness, our internal candidates are so much better than the outside candidates. And so if we can spread more of that, I'm hoping that kind of is the good part of a fulfilling prophecy or self-fulfilling prophecy, that you start to feel the qualitative and quantitative, which has been a big piece of what we're trying to do, that feel-good quotient, as I call it, matters too. So it's not.
Celebration, right?
Yes.
There's a lot of data in science to say celebrating, right? High-performing teams, high-performing districts are celebrating. They're talking about those positive things and they're sharing it, because you are constantly focusing on continuous improvement on what are you going to improve, right? That's the nature of our everyday conversations and what's going on, but you do have to be very purposeful in celebrating, because there's a lot of big things going on.
And engagement, hopefully engagement rolls downhill. That
Well, our
people
other thing-
realize there's a benefit.
Mark Grunsky walked over to my office this morning and he said, I think I can finally say this, like, this kind of growth is going to be hard to maintain year over year. Like, what are we going to do to set people up? So, like, you immediately, like, move on presentations tonight, like, okay, like, what are we going to do? Because that's hard to do
Bar high now.
year over year, right? And so you just move on in a good way. And then Mark, before he walked out, he said, I can't believe I just got to say that, right? Like, right, that we've moved, so it starts to feel.
It's the growth of the system, right? It was similar conversation with Mark like a month ago, and we're doing all the summit planning for August, and we were just reflecting, Jesse, you were there too, a bunch of us, like, the depth of the conversations around the data. Like, I remember 2 years ago being in those, like, okay, good, we're talking data, we have everybody's hands in it, and we're just past surface, like, we're talking, and now our conversations and our tools that we bring to the team to use for them to bring back, like, it challenges us to continue to look at it. Like, those conversations are getting deeper. Like, the questions Mark will get pulled into rooms for is, like, what's a good growth goal off of this data that's come down 3 Ys into, like, oh, okay, why did we get here versus it used to be, okay, like, students with special needs need to improve, let's know that. And now it's like, here's what we know about what they need, and here's what we're going to do in classrooms. And that's led to individual goal setting in classrooms at the middle school level. Pleasant View has done some of that too. Like, those are the pieces that get all the way to the classroom now. So when we always say boardroom to the classroom to the student, like, that's the ultimate goal. And we've gone from really good boardroom on a third iteration of a plan to sit teams that have reformed, so a really good format of sit, And now it's getting to that professional learning community, multi-level systems of support, MLSS. So it's getting deeper into the student data, right? Not just the planning about the learning that's going on universally in my classroom, but now we're getting into like specific student data and what's working with you in the English classroom that I need to try in the math classroom, or what behavioral pieces do we need to work on so they can attend to their learning. And those are the exciting pieces, and now it's even getting to that student level. Teachers sitting knee to knee with middle school students in particular, that was their big goal last year. It's really why I think they saw some of the things you'll see coming up. But they sat with the students and they helped the students with them set goals around learning. And the students could articulate what they're learning and where that journey is gonna go. And that's when you really get the impact, when they know and the parents are involved in that conversation. So it's like when we say boardroom to classroom, like we're truly getting there in a lot of pockets. An intention to fully get there, and it takes time. So I think a lot of those pieces are such celebrations, and it's not forgetting the bigger rocks that had to get in place, right? We talked about schedule my first year here. We adjusted it for my second year at the middle school, but that created the pocket to have those communities and those MLSS meetings to get to the student conversations, to get to the right house structure, to get the students in there. So it takes like those chunks and moves, those moves at the high school that happened this year, to start talking more about student data, not just planning data, right? Now that's moving that to the next level. So I think that's the exciting piece, is we talk rocks a lot, so it's like the big rocks are in place and now we can get to every next level of it. But it truly is going from the visioning in the boardroom now to students being able to talk a little more.
We talked about
how
at
their
that
learning
meeting,
goes.
remember that not everybody was a super big fan of the schedule change when it first started at the middle school. They had this year on their MAP score. So Linda, you asked about achievement scores. So MAP takes achievement and breaks it down into deciles. It's a really big word for 0 to 10%, 10 to 20%, 20 to 30. The middle school, for the first time, I asked Mark Grunsky if it was an error, and I'm not lying. I was like, that can't be right. They had more than a year's growth in a year's time on every single decile. So that means kids who are achieving like at the second percentile, so compared to all the other kids in the country, they would be considered, on average, achieving lower, to kids that were achieving at the 98th percentile, meaning they were high. All of those kids made more than a year's growth in a year's time, which I kid you not, I was like, Mark, you need a call. Like, I don't even want people to look at this. I have not seen that. I've been doing this
Bumps, yeah.
a long time. So like, you're starting to see things like that. And Jenna could not wait to celebrate that and share that and bring that to PLC. So you get to do some of, seeing data like that is pretty remarkable. It's something that I have not seen, so.
It doesn't happen by, the teacher in the front of the room teaching universally to the whole class. You have to hit those standards that you approved tonight, and you have to try to hit proficiency with all students on it, but you don't grow all those groups by doing that. You grow those groups by having the conversations about what the students need, and then meeting with those students in small groups with like needs, or sharing kids across classrooms, right? That's becoming a more regular language, especially in our elementary and middle schools, where you have similar classes going on at the same time. So we don't have to run the same small group of 2 students. We can share those. I can run this group of 4, you can run another group of 4. So it's very intentional to be able to get there. And that's looking at, that's pointing right back to that MLSS piece and the structures they have. Like if you sat with anybody on that SIT team at the middle school and you looked at those MLSS meetings, you're gonna have like data on the students, but you're also gonna have on like what are their interests. You're also gonna have what are all the strategies we've used across our district. So not only are they looking at the students, but they're looking at like maybe there's 35 strategies we've tried across all students in our building this year. These 5 have been the most rewarding, and the rewarding being students have engaged in it and their achievement and growth has improved. So we're also finding the better strategies that are more likely to meet certain students or students with certain demographics, maybe just, of focus in the classroom or whatever it may be. So I guess Dr. Bowe and I could go on all night about
I know.
this. It is
We'll
really,
stop.
really
I was like,
exciting
just
stuff.
stop.
But you have to get
my
there
inner
a few
person is
years
saying,
to get to
stop
some
it.
of it, yeah. All right, digressed. I'm proud of you. It's great work by great people in the district. It's a great team. It's fun.
All right, thank you. Anybody else? Questions?
I
All
just
right.
have a comment. I think,
Yeah,
with
please.
our Act 20 and also the new reading curriculum which we have implemented, hopefully that will help us, increase our ACT scores. I think down the road, I'm hoping with the changes which we are doing now, because as studies have shown is that the 3rd grade reading does reflect, in the ACT scores, I believe. And ACT having reading and English, two most important component. And I think the changes which we have implemented, especially with the reading, the new curriculum and all that stuff with Act 20, hopefully will start, giving us some positive results in the near future, such, so.
Thank you. Anyone else? All right, thank you, Dr. Bennon. Thank you, Dr. Moe. Thank you, Mr. Cromie. Thank you to all the staff that's in here and the staff that's in our schools. What a great year. We keep getting better and better, and we started off in a pretty good place. So thank you very much. That's great for the community. What a great report tonight. Thank you. Tuition waiver, Dr. Bennon, please.
Sure. So tuition waivers, when they come up, rarely, but we've had some over the last couple of years. They just have to be board approved. It basically means a family has shown enough work towards building a house in the community, but they're not in it yet. They plan to be in it in the next 9 weeks to 18 weeks, and so we just look at board approval that they'll be there. They've shown commitment. They're broken ground. You can see a lot of the documentation in here that already approved by the city. So we don't have any reason to suspect that they're not going to be permanently in that residence in the next 9 weeks. Typically with tuition waivers, it's 9 weeks. They can ask for an extension to 18 weeks, and then we take care of it from there.
I make a motion to approve the tuition waiver for the above.
Second.
Motion was made by Dr. Khan, seconded by Mrs. Larson. Any discussion?
So they provide their own transportation, right?
Right.
I mean, how do you know if they are in their house or not?
We'll check residency.
Oh, you-
They'll bring in proof of residency when
Oh,
they
they do.
move,
Somebody
and
asked.
we transport everyone, so we'd have it come through that way. Yeah, so we track it through transportation.
Okay, because they'd have to be on the bus then after they moved.
Right, yep, and they'll have to show proof that they're resident. So we'll have them documented, and then Heidi Engel follows up with them.
Okay, thank you.
Anybody else? All right, all in favor? Aye. Opposed? Motion carries. Thank you. Treasurer's report is available in the Board Docs Library. Future agenda items, Ed for Employment, Parent and Family Engagement in Title I programs, Student Code of Conduct Discipline Matrix, Summer School Report, Bullying Report, and I am looking,
Can I ask for another future agenda item?
please.
I'm looking to see some kind of review of our new compensation model, year to year, and its impact. It was a big move last year, and I don't think we really have a thorough review of, after 1 year implementation, on where we're at. Is it sustainable, or is it doing what we thought it was going to do? Those kind of questions.
All right, for discussion at some point, and anybody else have anything? All right, I'm looking for a motion to adjourn the meeting.
Second.
All right, motion was made by Mrs. Larson, seconded by Dr. Khan. All in favor? Aye. Opposed? We are adjourned at 8:07. Thank you, everyone.